Okay, Mark IV Mondeo on an 09 plate. I finished doing the discs now. The jacking points are just here. You can see where lug is, and there's another bar there that I put. So I used several jacks, one there, one underneath there, and then I put some blocks further on underneath there just in case. So always have plenty of support underneath your vehicle, and wear gloves as well. I took my gloves off so I could use the mobile phone. Ended up getting my hands really dirty, so here's a video of how I did it. Quick video. This is a Mark IV Mondeo on an 09 plate. This is the petrol, but I assume the diesels are similar. There's a few videos online about taking the disc off and the pads and replacing them. A bit of contradiction between the various tutorials, but I found it quite simple to do, really. To get the handbrake cable off, I just hold with a pair of these grips on that point there and just pull it up, and the cable pops out. And then all you need to do is these two nuts, one here, this is the piston where it moves over it, and one just underneath here. This one's size 13 and this is just 17, because you don't want to twist the rubber. There's actually a rubber there. By turning, the rubber turns, so you might rip your rubber up. So by holding the actual piston shaft just there with a 17mm, you can just undo that nut there. You only need to do these two nuts. The caliper then comes off, and the main cage, or whatever they call it, this bit, you can still get the disc off with this piece of metal still on. So you don't need to undo the 4 nuts, just the 2, this one and this one here. Disc comes off, and then to clean it off, I found I can just run through with a wire brush, which I'll show in a minute. And then, but you will need one of these piston twisters, caliper. I got this from Europarts, and it's really tight and a bit of a fiddle to get it in, but these lugs lock into the actual piston, and it turns the piston, so it screws the piston back in. I found you couldn't compress it like you can on my Transit van. I could just put a pair of clamps on it and just push the piston in, but on the main Mondeo you have to turn it in, so you're going to have to buy a proper brake caliper, compressor, or whatever they call them, tool. So I'll come back in a minute. Okay, I've stopped at this point, so I've undone the 2 nuts. Oddly enough, this bolt, I don't know whether you can see, I can't really get it out. It stays in the hole because it fouls on the cable there, but the bottom one comes off, and then the caliper itself just lifts straight the way out. So I'm going to have to tie that up with my bungee tie at the moment, because you don't want to put any strain on this. And then the pads here, they literally just slide out, so that one just slides straight out. This all stays in. Give the disc a tap from the back, and the disc will come out while this remains in. So like I said, you only need to do the 2 bolts, top and bottom there. So I'll come back in a second when I got a bit sorted out. Okay, I hope you can see this. Tied me caliper up. The disc itself, I pulled the pad, just slides out, and the back one slides out, and then the disc itself just comes off thus. Not very good, is it? Not much meat on these pads either, look at them. Anyway, so now, without damaging that rubber, you can just clean that up with a wire brush, top and bottom, and grease them. Clean this round, put the new disc on, put the pads in. But what I need to do is wind in that caliper I was talking about earlier. You can see it's got 2 grooves in it, and then these 2 lugs, which is the wider lugs out of it, these actually come off and turn round. Different cars, they lock in, and I need to wind that caliper down and you need to take the lid off your reservoir, your brake fluid reservoir, because that might overflow if you've been topping it up. So keep an eye on that as you're winding this back in, and then put it all together. So it's fairly straightforward to do. So I hope this helped a little bit. Oh, by the way, these are the ones I got from Europarts, and the discs, same brand. I think the discs, the pads and the tool was about 80 quid with a discount code, 50% off or something, 52% off for the rear. Okay, well, it's all on. It's been a bit of a game, to be honest, because I couldn't get the piston winder to work very well. In the end, I had to screw the caliper back on with just the two nuts, and then get that in and use an extension bar, because the end isn't very long and you can't get much purchase on it and much leverage, and it's really hard to sort of turn it round. But eventually I managed to wind it back in. Not impressed with this at all. I think if you're going to buy one, buy a better one than this. Apart from that, it's fine. So I've now put the two nuts back on there. I re-greased the pistons. I just need to get me wrench and lever it up and get this cable back in there, and put the wheel back on. I'm going to put a bit more cleaner, make sure there's no grease on the disc. That's clean, and we're all done.